Hello everyone, I hope you're doing so well today. Thank you for joining me. Today, we're just gonna chat about this painting. I'm going to talk you through how I approach it, and we're just going to have a lot of fun. Oil painting. So the brushes that I have out tentatively to work with are my 3/8 Rosemary Co Eclipse Comber. This is a new brush that I got and I'm utterly obsessed. It's absolute perfection. The next one that I have is a size 3 and it's honestly so old. It's one of those tree texture brushes. I believe it's hog bristle because, well, it feels like it, and it's very coarse and the bristles are quite rigid, and I like it, but I also really like the shape of it. As for colors, I have my violet gray, I have ultramarine blue, I have cobalt teal, I have Viridian, chromium oxide green, burnt sienna, burnt umber, Naples yellow, alizarin crimson, Tuscan red, permanent Tuscan red, and titanium white. Alizarin crimson is another new color for me, and I really like it. So with this painting, my main goal is to do it in as little brush strokes as possible, and that's not necessarily the quantity, but as far as really analyzing the color, the value, and doing it in one brush stroke. So what I can get done in one, and try not to fuss. I'm also starting later in the afternoon because I worked on another painting this morning. So whereas I normally try to get all of this done in one day, I don't know that that's entirely feasible today. I'm going to start by laying in the background. It's almost like a burnt umber, but with kind of a dirty hue to it. It's got kind of like a greeny, muddy vibe. So this is just a really muddy, ugly color. Honestly, it was a mixture of burnt umber, Naples yellow, chromium green oxide, some like violet purple, a little bit of ultra, and I just smeared it together until it looked right-ish. And this is where I'm really trying to do, you know, like the background doesn't have that much diversity to it, so I'm like really trying to maximize these brush strokes. You can see that I have a lot of this drawn in, but I'm not at all worried about painting over. With this looser style, it actually is gonna end up looking quite a bit more realistic, with quite a bit more depth if I do draw over it as needed. Now I'm just covering this area, trying to keep it pretty smooth back there. Okay, so I did burnt umber and ultramarine blue, but I'm gonna throw a little bit of my violet gray in there and just kind of like gray it up, soften it up a little bit. I think that's good. There are some little nuances in this background right here, but honestly, it's not gonna be where I want the attention of the viewer to go. So I think I'm just gonna not get too picky about how dynamic that background is. One of the things that I'm making sure that I'm doing too is that I'm rotating my brush a lot and making sure that I'm just getting a lot of variation. I'm working from my shoulder more so than I am my wrist. And that's gonna give me a lot more variety in my brush strokes. Again, one of the perks of really mastering drawing and why I'm doing that self-taught artist kind of curriculum is because when you gain confidence in drawing, it really unlocks everything else for you. Because I know that even if I do paint over anything that's really important, I know that I can draw it again and I'm not worried about it. And I think that ultimately is what can lead to those really loose and masterful paintings, the ones that are still so realistic, right? But also have this like loose painterly brushwork. I'm gonna take my permanent red, a little cad orange, a little yellow ochre. For the dark side, I'm gonna put burnt umber into that mix. And I'm gonna put a little violet gray, but I need more of it. So the next thing that I see is that I want to tackle the darks and the chilies. Got a few variations to it. I'm gonna kind of take the mixture that I had, but add even more burnt umber, a little alizarin. Right now it's really important that I do a lot of squinting so that I don't get bogged down in these details, because that is what I normally do. We're trying to be different. Okay, so now I'm gonna get kind of more of a cad red, but purple it out a little bit. Oh, perfect, okay. This was a great example of a moment where I wanted like heat, but still kind of a cool heat. And I got exactly that. I'm gonna layer this, but down here, because it's in more sun, it's actually more of a pure cad. There's like not really much else mixed into it. And it's not all of them. I'll put some I kind of want to tackle this area. It's quite dark and cool, but also not entirely dark and cool. I think a good kind of burnt umber, ultramarine mixture will suffice. These are in the background. They need to be perfect. I want to keep that looseness to it, so. I'm gonna mix a few colors and see which ones I like the most, but there's like some green there, there's some green right there. There's honestly a big part of me that's just trying to tell myself, don't draw what I know, draw just the shapes. Okay, the green that's closer up is quite a bit more viridian toned. Back here there are some lemons, but the shadow color is very, very particular. It's honestly quite brown, so I'm taking a lot of burnt umber, some cad yellow. I'm also muting it by adding the complementary purple. Some of it actually works right here too. Just like ever so slightly a little bit of green in here. I'm gonna go to the oranges now, where it's kind of the same thing. That orange is a really, really dirty gray. So I took almost that same mixture and now just added orange to it. I keep these really dull and uneventful looking. Again, just while I have this kind of orangey color, I'm gonna map some of these in, because these are also oranges. Just squinting a whole bunch, moving from the wrist, blobbing everything in there. I'm just softening this out. We'll see how that does. I'm not sure I'm entirely convinced that that's perfect, but I ran into this similar feeling yesterday's drawing with yesterday's painting, and it ended up working out really well. So we'll just try it. We'll try it. Cool. Okay, I'm actually quite happy with that. And there's just like one little like big old orange right there. Big old orange right. Cool. I'm liking this. I'm liking this a lot. Let's finish this while we're here. Let's fill in some of this. You can tell I'm reaching some of the end of my brain space today because I'm feeling a little like impatient. The thing I'm doing right now is drawing in the direction. So I'm kind of like still informing myself of what's going on by drawing in the direction of where I see things moving, and in that way I just kind of remind myself that, you know, I maybe need to add a little bit of highlights, a little color variation in some of these areas. Because this is on the edge of the painting, I really don't want to draw extra attention to it. So even though in the reference there's a teal blue right here, that is the last thing that I want right here, because I do not want to draw any attention down and to the bottom of the page and like off the page. Okay, I think we'll call that a wrap for today so that I can just tackle all the grapes and all the foliage fresh tomorrow, since we all know foliage is not my forte, but it's a good thing to practice. So overall, super happy with how it looks. That actually maybe bothers me a little bit. I might subdue that later just because I do really want this to pop the most. But love the colors, love the looseness. It's definitely going in the right direction, and we'll just kind of finish up everything tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Welcome back today. I'm going to start with some of these darker greens. I'm taking my chromium oxide green, burnt umber to get like a dark, kind of olivey, grayed out color. And then maybe, I don't know, I'm gonna pull off a little bit and I wanna see what Naples yellow just adds too much kind of titanium white. Titanium white is in the Naples yellow, so when you add it, it doesn't always work. So I'm gonna add a little cad medium. That's actually a great color. However, I'm just mixing like a few different colors right now because there's a few like dark aspects. However, I don't really see, there isn't much of the viridian. It's more of like an olivey. So let's do ultramarine blue, burnt umber, chromium green, and I added a little bit of the violet gray. I think we've got it. We'll see. It's like a dark olive looking green. And I'm just gonna go in scumbling a little bit of stuff in there. I wanna make sure that I'm getting these like shadow shapes laid in. And by squinting, I'm definitely making sure that I'm seeing it as a whole, not just kind of like individuals. There's all these little nooks and crannies in between the grapes that I really want to make sure. That's where the realism is really gonna kind of pop out, that depth. So now I'm just kind of scumbling in some shadow. That same mixture, I'm adding a little bit of the cad yellow. I'm just gonna start putting some of these. I'm really just trying to feel the shapes in space. I'm imagining sculpting this. Just like with everything else, I'm just unpacking this. I'm putting a very dark like base layer because I'll be adding brighter leaves on top, but and again, just one of the main reasons I wanted to do this right now is because before I get the lights in for the grapes, I really wanted to make sure that we kind of had a handle on some of these values.